world before the flood was a place few dared to imagine. Dense forests, like living walls, stretched farther than the human eye could ever see. Natural stone pillars rose like forgotten monuments from civilizations that would never be recorded. The atmosphere felt thicker, more intense, charged with a primordial mystery. There was something different about that world, something that no longer exists. At that time, humanity was still taking its first steps, yet people had already learned to build villages, tribes, and small kingdoms. Humans looked to the skies with reverence and fear. They knew there was something up there, something greater than themselves, something watching, silently. And they were right. From the heights of heaven, celestial beings known as the Watchers had been placed with a clear purpose: to observe, to protect, to guide. They were not common angels. Each one held authority over profound aspects of creation: the stars, the mysteries of the earth, the invisible structures of the universe. They were guardian shepherds of the human world. But they were also beings with will, and with will comes choice. It was during a period of great beauty and chaos that the impossible happened. Some of these celestial beings looked upon humanity and saw something they were never meant to see: fascination. A forbidden interest, deep and consuming, a mixture of curiosity, admiration, and desire. They observed human women, their emotions, their fragilities, their passions, and something within them ignited. The commander of this group was Semjaza, an angel endowed with unmatched intelligence and charisma. His voice carried the weight of a storm, and his presence was radiant, yet his light flickered like a flame bending toward the winds of rebellion. He felt the impulse first. He desired first what he was forbidden to desire. But Semjaza feared standing alone. He feared falling alone. He feared bearing eternal guilt by himself. So one night, when the stars seemed to listen, he gathered the other Watchers atop Mount Hermon, a place that would forever be marked as the scene of celestial transgression. "If I do this alone," he said, "I will pay alone. But if we do this together, we share the same fate." There were 200 Watchers. 200 celestial beings of immense power and knowledge. 200 spirits who made a blood oath, swearing never to turn back, swearing to take for themselves what God had forbidden. And in that moment, everything changed forever. Semjaza descended first. He touched the soil of earth like someone setting foot on forbidden ground. His eyes shone like molten metal, and as he walked through the darkness of ancient forests, humanity would never be the same. One by one, the Watchers left heaven. Their wings cut through the heavy air of the earth, and whenever they approached humans, people trembled as if witnessing gods walking among them. And then, they took them, human women. They seized those they desired and were received with fear, fascination, and confusion. From these forbidden unions between heaven and earth, something gigantic was born. Literally gigantic. The Nephilim. Powerful, anthropomorphic beings with supernatural abilities, the fusion of the immortal and the mortal. Ancient texts describe them as colossal giants of unimaginable height. Unbeatable warriors, creatures of overwhelming strength, some violently cruel, others simply incapable of belonging to the world of men. They did not belong to heaven, and they did not belong to earth. As they grew, so did their hunger, their arrogance, and their dominion. Wherever they walked, armies collapsed. Wherever they fought, kingdoms rose and disappeared in moments. They shaped mountains with their bare hands, crushed stones as if they were fruit, and inspired terror across the ancient world. Humanity, now under their rule, lived caught between fear and awe. But there was a problem. The Nephilim were not just big. They were devourers. They consumed everything: animals, crops, natural resources, and in the darkest records, even humans. Their appetite was insatiable. They were not merely hybrids, they were distortions of universal laws. They were the direct result of an error so profound it shook the cosmos. And the Watchers realized, too late, that they had not created children. They had created monsters. Meanwhile, humans cried out to heaven. Their screams rose like smoke from desperate sacrifices. They begged for help, pleaded for intervention, wept before the brutality of the creatures who now ruled the earth. And heaven heard. The archangels observed. The Most High rose, and the universe held its breath. For the time of judgment had come. But before judgment descended, something even deeper occurred. The Watchers, filled with regret, anguish, and terror at the consequences of their actions, realized that their rebellion had opened a wound in the fabric of creation. They sought wisdom. They sought forgiveness. They begged the prophet Enoch to intercede for them. And Enoch, the man who walked with God, heard their pleas. He ascended to heaven. He heard words from the mouth of the Creator himself, and when he returned, he delivered a message that froze the Watchers' souls. There will be no forgiveness. The sentence was already decided. Justice was already in motion. The chains were already prepared. And then began the greatest celestial operation in history, the capture and imprisonment of the Watchers. The heavens darkened. Warrior angels descended like storms of fire. The earth trembled beneath their feet. The Watchers tried to flee, but there was nowhere to hide from divine command. Across the pre-flood world, battles erupted between beings of incomparable power. Fear seized the Nephilim. They felt their fathers falling one by one. Michael led the offensive. Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel followed the orders of the Most High. The surface of the earth became a battlefield between light and darkness. And then, the final decree. The Watchers would be cast into eternal prisons, chained in dark abysses until the day of judgment. The place? A deep abyss, hidden and sealed. A realm of thick darkness where no light enters, where time does not pass. A spiritual prison. But one more task remained, the extermination of the Nephilim. And thus, God announced the event that would end that corrupted era forever, the Great Flood. As the first echoes of divine judgment spread through the earth, something shifted in the atmosphere of the ancient world. The wings seemed to carry silent messages. Trees trembled without reason. Animals fled into caves as if sensing an immense force preparing to manifest. Humanity, terrified, watched the sky knowing that something terrible and divine was about to break through the veil between dimensions. The air grew heavy. It was as if the universe itself awaited the Creator's sentence. The Watchers, once confident, now lived in constant dread. They felt heaven closing against them. It was as if every star judged them. The oath made on Mount Hermon, the oath they swore never to break, now weighed like an invisible chain squeezing their spirits. Semjaza, once a bold leader, was consumed by fear. His once blazing eyes looked hollow, restless, always fixed on the horizon. He knew the Most High was coming. He knew there was no escape. And when he heard Enoch would return with a verdict, a spark of hope ignited, only to be crushed by the prophet's message. You asked for forgiveness, but heaven will not grant it. The words fell upon the Watchers like silent thunder. At that moment, their fate was sealed. But the judgment was not only for them, it was also for their offspring, the Nephilim. These giants, unlike their fathers, did not fear nor understand the gravity of what was coming. They saw themselves as invincible, tall as towers, strong as forces of nature, arrogant and violent. They massacred villages, dominated territories, destroyed forests and mountains. To them, Earth was a playground of power where nothing could stop them. Until something began to change. In the weeks after the divine decree, strange phenomena occurred. The moon looked closer. The sun felt hotter. Stable lands trembled. The sea advanced unnaturally. Birds migrated out of season. It was as if creation itself reacted to the imbalance caused by the Watchers. The world was sick, and God had reached his limit. Meanwhile, in the spiritual realm where dimensions overlap like invisible veils, a celestial assembly was called. Archangels gathered before the eternal glory. Among them were Michael, the commander of heaven's armies, Gabriel, the messenger of truth, Uriel, the bearer of divine secrets, and Raphael, the healer of nations. All awaited instructions. Then the voice that shaped galaxies spoke, a voice that made space vibrate, that made entire worlds bow. The Watchers have corrupted the earth. Their sons devour humanity. Their actions wounded the harmony of creation. The sentence is sealed. Each word seemed to tear through the fabric of reality. Michael received the first command, capture Semjaza and all the rebel Watchers. Gabriel received the second, purge the earth, destroying the violence of the Nephilim. Raphael received the third, heal humanity and teach them righteousness once more. Uriel received the fourth, warn Noah of the coming flood. And then, heaven trembled. The celestial offensive began immediately. On earth, terror took shape. The Watchers moved before the Archangels descended. Some fled to the mountains, others hid in deep caverns. Some tried to fight their fate, gathering their powers and attempting to open dimensional portals to escape judgment. But none of it mattered. The sky opened, not like clouds before rain, but like a luminous tear in the fabric of the cosmos. Michael descended first. His presence was so intense that the ground cracked beneath his feet. Mountains shuddered. Animals collapsed. Humanity ran in panic. Even the Nephilim felt a primal fear they had never known. Michael was like a living storm, a wave of celestial power advancing with purpose. Semjaza. His voice boomed like thunder. I come to carry out the sentence. The leader of the Watchers tried to escape. He shook the earth. Summoned winds attempted to take flight, but a divine gravity pulled him back. It was as if heaven itself said, enough. The battle was epic. Semjaza roared, releasing energy that illuminated entire mountains, but Michael advanced with absolute calm like one who carries justice itself. The final blow was not an attack, but a decree. You will be cast into the abyss until the day of judgment. Chains of light wrapped around Semjaza. He screamed not only in pain, but in despair. He knew this was final. This was forever. Other Watchers attempted to intervene, but Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel had already arrived. And when the three joined the offensive, the world lit up like daytime. The capture had begun. Meanwhile, the assault on the Nephilim was even more brutal. The giants saw their fathers falling, and for the first time, they understood fear. They gathered as colossal armies, lifting enormous spears, boulders, entire tree trunks. But against divine command, they were nothing. Gabriel led the attack. Where Gabriel passed, his light consumed the giants. It was not a destructive light in the human sense, but an energy that erased corruption. The Nephilim fell like collapsing mountains. Each step shook the earth. Each roar echoed through valleys. But their strength meant nothing. They were not part of the divine design, and therefore, they had no place in creation. Some giants fought to the end. Others fled into mountains and forests, but nothing could stop what had been decreed. Their souls bore the seal of non-belonging. Unlike humans, they could not be judged with mercy. They were forbidden beings, the offspring of a union that should never have existed. As they fell, the earth trembled, a sign of something greater, something final, something that would wipe everything clean. Meanwhile, Noah worked. Yes, the world was in chaos, but he followed God's instructions with silent discipline. The ark grew day by day immense, strange to human eyes. Many mocked, others watched in silence, others fled from regions ruled by Nephilim. But Noah knew his mission was urgent. Then Uriel appeared to him again. Corruption has spread across the earth. Judgment is coming. When the ark is ready, I will open the floodgates of heaven. The flood was imminent. But before the first drop fell, justice needed completion. Every rebel watcher had to be imprisoned. What followed was so grand that the earth itself seemed to record it in memory. Imagine mountains collapsing, skies torn by beams of radiant light, storms forming out of nothing, a deep silence before each prison was sealed. The watchers were dragged into spiritual abysses described in ancient texts as caverns so deep that no light could reach them, places of absolute isolation, no time, no form, no hope. And as each rebel was pulled into this eternal fate, the earth felt the weight of judgment. But here lies the most crucial detail: this was not the end. It was only the preparation. Because the true climax was about to begin. The flood, the cleansing, the resetting of humanity, and the final revelation of why God imprisoned the watchers before destroying the ancient world. The earth fell silent, not the silence of night or the quiet of old forests, but an absolute stillness, as if all creation held its breath before the event that would forever change the world. The few humans who remained looked to the heavens in terror as Noah and his family worked on the final details of the ark. The ancient world was about to disappear. But before the waters swallowed mountains, valleys, and cities, God had one last action: the eternal imprisonment of the fallen angels. Semjaza, bound by divine light, was dragged to the abyss by the archangels. The other watchers, equally subdued, screamed and begged, but their cries echoed through a cosmic void. There was no answer, no mercy. They knew their freedom was over.